Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is your teacher Ummara Shaheen. I hope and pray that all of you are fine. Dear students, today we will start a new topic, and name of the topic is diffusion and osmosis. These are the learning outcomes. In this topic, we will learn about diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. Started with the diffusion. Before going into the details of the technical terms, let's first understand diffusion with a very simple example. Let's say we are sitting in the classroom and we are having our biology class, and a person comes and the person sprayed the air freshener near the door. Initially, the students which are sitting in the first rows, they will be able to smell the air freshener, but after some times the students which are sitting in the last rows, they are also they will be also able to smell air freshener. And how is this possible? How the air freshener molecules traveled from one place to another? And the answer is diffusion. They traveled from the area of their higher concentration to the area of their lower concentration. By concentration mean quantity. By concentration I mean quantity. Initially there was higher quantity of the spray at the place where it was sprayed, and then with the passage of time the molecules, they moved across the room and they spread in the entire room. And how the molecules of air freshener they spread in an entire room? The answer is diffusion. Now moving on to the technical definition of diffusion. Before going into the details of technical definition, first you need to learn one thing, that whenever there is the word diffusion, osmosis or active transport, so you should know that these are the type of movement of molecules. See, the diffusion is the movement of molecule from the area of their higher concentration to the area of their lower concentration. And this thing, the movement from higher to lower concentration, it is also called down a concentration gradient. And in this process, energy is not required. Like if we recall the example of air freshener, when the person sprayed air freshener in the room, after some time the air freshener molecule, they spread in an entire room, and that process did not require any energy. So this is a type of passive transport. Passive transport means that energy is not required. So this is the definition of diffusion, and there can be different examples of diffusion as well. For example, one that you learned in our previous chapter, like the diffusion of oxygen into red blood cell. Red blood cells absorb oxygen by the process of diffusion. Similarly, if you talk about plant cells, so diffusion also occurs in plant cell, and you have studied this in your previous classes as well, that carbon dioxide, they enters into the leaf cells by the process of diffusion. So diffusion is the process which occurs in the living organism and in other cases as well. Like we studied the example of air freshener, it is the movement of molecules from the region of their high concentration to the region of their lower concentration, down the concentration gradient. Moving on to our next topic, that is osmosis. But keep one thing in mind, that whenever there is the word OSMO, osmo, so it means we are dealing with water. The word osmo, it means water. Whenever we are talking about movement of water molecules, so first you should keep one thing in mind, that osmosis is the type of movement of water molecules from the area of their higher water potential to the area of their lower water potential. In simple words, we can say that down the water potential gradient. Down the water potential gradient. There is one additional thing, partially permeable membrane. And you are familiar with the concept of partially permeable membrane, and you learned this in the plant cells and animal cells. So for osmosis, a partially permeable membrane is also required, and it is also a type of passive transport, which means that energy is not required. Here I am going to explain osmosis with another example. Let's say this is a sugar solution. So by sugar solution means that sugar is dissolved in water. These large molecules, these are the sugar molecules, and these over here, small molecules, these are water molecules. So osmosis means that movement of water from their higher water potential to the lower water potential. So in this diagram you can see that over here is the higher water potential. How you can say that here is higher water potential? Because there is more water and less sugar, while over here there is less water potential as they have more glucose molecule. So over the time osmosis will occur and water will move from its higher water potential to the lower water potential, and for that there is a membrane required, which is a partially or semi-permeable membrane. See, so this is how you have to understand or clarify the concept of water potential, that water over here there is a higher water potential and there is lower water potential. Whenever we see the concept of water potential, so you have to learn it with respect to solute concentration. If the solute concentration is high, the water potential will be low. Over here there is less solute, there are less sugar molecules, so the water potential is high. So water will move from its higher water potential to the lower water potential, and this phenomena is called osmosis. I'm sure this concept is clear now, and if you have any queries, so you can ask. Our last concept of today's lesson is active transport. Now it is defined as, again, it is the type of movement of what? Ions in or out of the cells through a cell membrane or through a partially permeable membrane. Now here there is something new. In case of diffusion and osmosis, we saw that these are the movement of molecules from higher to lower concentration, but in case of active transport it is from lower concentration to the higher concentration, and the movement from lower to higher concentration is called against the concentration gradient. And as the molecules have to move against the concentration gradient, so this process requires energy. And where does this energy comes from? Yes, energy is released during the process of respiration, and you all are familiar with the respiration. Energy comes in the form of ATP. Here you can see in this example that there is the lower concentration of ions over here, and there is the higher concentration of ions. If they have to move by diffusion, though the movement should be towards this direction, but as it is active transport, so it is from the region where there is lower concentration to the region where there is higher concentration, and this is called active transport. And there are two examples of active transport. The one these are the cells that you have learned in your previous lecture, that is root hair cells, and these are the soil particles. So water moves into the root hair cells by the process of osmosis, but the ions which are essential for the growth of the plants, like magnesium ions, nitrate ions, they will move into the plant cells, into the root hair cells by the process of active transport. They are already in higher quantities in the cells, in the root hair cells or in the plants, and they are in the less quantity in the soil particles, yet they will move from the soil particles into the cells against their concentration gradient from the low concentration to the higher concentration. Similarly, there is an example of active transport in humans as well. For example, glucose uptake by the cells in villi. Villi are the specialized structures present in the small intestine. So these small molecules over here, these are glucose molecules. You can see that they are already in higher concentration inside the villi. Again, they will move from the lower concentration to the higher concentration against their concentration gradient by the phenomena of active transport, and in this phenomena energy is required. Okay beta, this is all from today's topic. Go to the video and then solve the assignment. Allah Hafiz.